Chapter 241, Coming Together. At this point in the rookie ranking competition, the entire arena seemed to belong to Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran. Everyone else was playing second fiddle. When people looked at other battles, they only had one thought in their mind, and that was, hurry up and finish your battle. Let Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran go on stage. All the rookies that could still go on stage were the best amongst the rookies. All of them grew up with a halo around their heads, but now they were just supporting characters on the stage. This made them feel helpless, but they had to admit that Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran were on a completely different level from them. The referee intentionally scheduled Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran's battle at the end of the day. This was to ensure that Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran would be able to recover to their optimal states, so their battle could be a showdown at the highest levels. The sun slowly set in the west and dusk set in. People were all waiting for the beginning of this big battle. All the other rookies had finished their battles, so all they were waiting for was for Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran to go on stage. Suddenly, near the arena's main entrance, a commotion in the crowd happened. The tightly packed crowd suddenly began to disperse. The people who dispersed had faces of confusion or shock. Oh! What's wrong? People began to look over, and all they saw was a number of men in black cloaks at the entrance. And in between these black-cloaked men, there were two elderly men who strolled in leisurely. They are. Everyone was shocked, especially the rookies. They had never seen these two old men before, so it was natural they did not recognize them. But the rookies vaguely knew about these black-cloaked men. The only people who wore black cloaks in the Tai Divine Kingdom were law enforcers. Law enforcers? Why are there so many law enforcers here? The rookies were dumbfounded, and at this moment, some of the stronger veteran cultivators recognized the two old men after a momentary pause. Elder Jian Gu. Elder Song Yan. Why did they come to the arena? All of the rookies were dumbstruck when they heard this. Elder, these two old men are elders. To all the cultivators present, the Divine City's elders were legendary figures. In the entire Tai Divine Kingdom, there might not even be one in 500 years. What were they doing here in the arena? The rookie ranking competition was not something worth the attention of the elders. Ignoring the rookie ranking competition, even Qin Haotian, who was ranked number 1 in the arena, would not receive such treatment by the elders when he was challenged by those ranked 2nd or 3rd. At most, the elders would just watch a video disc array. There were firsts every year in the Divine City. Every year, the person ranked first on the Earth Roll of Honor would be challenged numerous times in a short period of time. The elders were not so free to watch it every time. Typically, the elders never appeared in the arena. Instead, it should be said that cultivators typically did not have the chance to meet the elders. Rookie cultivators might have a chance of meeting Elder Song Yan when he did his occasional guest appearance as the door-manning old man, however, they did not know he was an elder. Seeing Song Yan and Jian Gu sit in the seats of honor, everyone was still in a daze. Could they be here to watch Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran's match? Upon thinking of this possibility, people were in disbelief. But thinking further, Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran's match was indeed a notable event. Amazing! This rookie ranking competition is getting the attention of the elders? People looked at each other with puzzled faces. No matter how impressive Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran were, they were not at Qin Haotian's level. They managed to get two elders to watch them as rookies? This was really unbelievable. At this moment, Song Yan and Jian Gu calmly sat in the seats. It was indeed something that had never happened before, for some elders to come in person to the arena. They came here to see Yi Yun's understanding of the Saber Truth's 32 words in person. Although the Tai Divine City's video disc array could be used to record video, it was not enough to record laws that cultivators had insights into. The unclear video images were unable to reflect the charm of the Saber Truths. Yi Yun. Xu Xiaoran. Divine Wilderness Stage. The referee announced. With the two elders here, the referee also felt pressure. With his 1,000-army saber in his hand, Yi Yun walked up onto the Divine Wilderness stage. And his opponent, Chu Xiaoran, held a soft sword in her hand. She had a quiet demeanor and she seemed to lack the sharpness of an expert. As she walked, Chu Xiaoran glanced at the two elderly men in the seats of honor. They are the Divine City's elders, the real pillars of support for the Tai Divine Kingdom. They are stronger than my grandfather, my father and master. Chu Xiaoran came from the Chu family, which was a family clan with a deep heritage, but there was never a human sage in the family. Even the current head of the Chu family was only a peak human lord. Chu Xiaoran had her own ambitions. She was determined to be the first sage in the Chu family. She wanted to start a new glorious chapter in the Chu family's history. However, this ambition had always been buried deep in Chu Xiaoran's heart. She had never mentioned this to anyone. Now, having seen two sages at once, it struck a nerve. In the future, she also wanted to reach that level. A sage appeared once in 500 years. She wanted to be the strongest expert in the past 500 years. She could not fail here. Chu Xiaoran drew out her sword. She was silent and her breaths were well-tempered, however, her beautiful eyes could not hide her fighting spirit. Yi Yun slowly drew out his 1,000-army saber. Chu Xiaoran, I know you are hiding your strength, and from the strength you have shown up to now, it is not enough to defeat me. If you do not use your trump card early on, you might not have the opportunity to use it. Thank you for your advice. Make your move. Chu Xiaoran was very calm. She was never more serious for this battle than before. It might be because of the appearance of the two sages that had ignited the fighting spirit in Chu Xiaoran. She wanted to win. At this moment, Yi Yun started to move. His body moved like a gust of wind, and the terrifying saber beam, which condensed into one that could shatter all kinds of blade beams, slashed down at Chu Xiaoran. This move flooded the vision of everyone. Even at a distance, people felt that a long saber was hanging by their neck with a murderous intent. A terrifying saber. Chu Xiaoran contracted her pupils and she flew backwards to dodge the beam. Then, she stabbed her soft sword towards the beam. All her body's yuan qi also surged into the sword. This yuan qi was accompanied with an indescribable softness in it to meet the saber beam. However, Yi Yun's saber was much sharper than Chu Xiaoran's sword. With a chi sound, the beam sliced through Chu Xiaoran's sword qi. All people could see was that the beam was traveling towards her face. People could not help but exclaim. Chu Xiaoran was a beautiful, young girl. If Xiaoniu was slashed by the saber, it was alright. But no one could bear seeing Chu Xiaoran being slashed. In a split second, just as Chu Xiaoran was about to be slashed by the saber, Yi Yun's saber beam mysteriously shifted to the side. Cha! This slash eventually went parallel to Chu Xiaoran's face, and it hit the purple tungsten ground heavily. The solid purple tungsten stage quaked and a deep 4 feet long saber mark appeared on it. Chu Xiaoran's body fluttered 30 meters in the air before she landed softly on the ground, but there were a few strands of hair that dropped down onto her cheeks. What happened just now? The audience stared with their eyes wide open. They were completely focused on the beam and they were afraid that they would miss an exciting moment. But even so, they could not clearly see what had happened during Yi Yun and Chu Xiaoran's clash. It was too fast and in a split second, the two were separated apart. Following that, the stage was slashed open by the saber beam. It made people breathless. I clearly saw Yi Yun's saber beam in front of Chu Xiaoran. Why did he not fully slash downwards? Did Yi Yun feel tenderness towards women at the last moment and held back? Someone asked. Don't be silly, a veteran cultivator shook his head. You think she is a frail maiden? This is the hard-soft concept. Chu Xiaoran used the hard-soft concept at the last moment to dissipate Yi Yun's force, but she did not manage to dissipate all of it. Some of the veteran cultivators, who were ranked around 2000 on the Earth ranking, could clearly see Yi Yun and Chu Xiaoran's battle. The hard-soft concept could dissipate many attacks, but if the difference in strength was too great, it still could not reverse the tide. Many people noticed that a few strands of Chu Xiaoran's hair had fallen off. It was Yi Yun who held the upper hand in their first engagement. Yi Yun looked at his own saber and thought about the power from before. He was amazed that his saber could change directions against his will. Yi Yun said, "Hardsoft, it's indeed amazing to use a weaker force to overcome a stronger force. But it is not enough to obtain victory with that. My first slash was just a probe. Following up, I will use all my strength." Probe. Hearing this, people turned speechless. Such a strong saber attack was just Yi Yun's probe. Many amongst them knew that they could not even resist the saber attack, nor did they know how to do so. Previously, they knew Yi Yun was very strong. But they did not know how big the difference was. Now, they had an intuitive feel of the difference. Now, it was no surprise that Qianniu was defeated. They were not Qianniu and did not know the pressure Qianniu experienced when fighting Yi Yun. They would probably know the feeling if they were the one standing on stage. Chapter 242, Aspect Totem. On stage, Yi Yun's Yuan Qi was circulating. His aura continued to rise, while his thousand-army saber began to emit a light sound as his saber-tooth screamed out. Yi Yun's strength was constantly condensing like a surging tidal wave. Seeing Yi Yun in such a state, Chu Xiaoran wiped away the hair that was cut by the saber qi and took a light breath. "Your saber is very strong, but I will defeat you," Chu Xiaoran said seriously. She held her soft sword in both of her hands and she stretched it out. A bluish-white glow circulated on the sword's edges. Her Yuan Qi condensed and very soon, a layer of frost formed on her sword. The layer of frost became thicker, covering Chu Xiaoran's sword, her hand, eventually spreading throughout her entire body. A chill that penetrated into one's bones had spread in all directions. Even the audience, who were far away, could feel this bone-chilling coldness. Is this frost qi? She has ice elemental Yuan Qi. Many people in the audience hesitated for a moment. A warrior's Yuan Qi could have many types of elemental properties. It was not odd for some of them to have ice elemental Yuan Qi. This was not enough to be Chu Xiaoran's hidden strength, as Yuan Qi with elemental properties were not that much stronger. Ice elemental Yuan Qi was no sensation. Fang Jihai, who Chu Xiaoran had previously defeated, was a fire elemental warrior. Yuan Qi with an elemental property was easier to convert into an attack than non-elemental Yuan Qi, but it was not that much stronger. Just as the audience was in a confused state, Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi slowly began to condense behind Chu Xiaoran, forming a phantom image. It was the phantom image of a white wolf. It was large in size, about 4 meters in height and 7 meters long. It stood majestically behind Chu Xiaoran and it gave a strong visual impact. Glacier Snow Wolf. An ice elemental desolate beast. This is manifestation of Yuan Qi? Manifestation of Yuan Qi was the phenomenon of coalescing the Yuan Qi emitted by one's body into a physical form. This was something almost any purple blood warrior in the Tai-A Divine City could do. Qianniu's final attack, Skyok's Tyrannous Blood, also used the manifestation of Yuan Qi. It had unleashed the phantom image of an ox, but it was still slashed through by Yi Yun. It was not rare to have a manifestation of Yuan Qi in the Tai-A Divine City. But, some rookies realized that the white wolf behind Chu Xiaoran was different. It had an inexplicable spirit to it. It appeared to have a telepathic connection with Chu Xiaoran. It was as if it was formed from Chu Xiaoran's soul, containing a part of Chu Xiaoran's life force. Besides, this huge white wolf contained a surging power of desolates within it. This was the strength only desolate beasts could have, but it was present in the Yuan Qi phantom image behind Chu Xiaoran. What was even more surprising was that the white wolf did not seem to be formed from Chu Xiaoran's Yuan Qi, but seemed as if it was a real desolate beast. Could it be? The rookies were uncertain, but the veteran cultivators had long since identified it. It was not the manifestation of Yuan Qi, it was something of a higher level. It was something that only Yuan Foundation realm warriors could do, Aspect Totem. Is it really Aspect Totem? How is this possible? People were astonished. In the divine wilderness, humans and desolate beasts were enemies. Desolate beasts would often eat humans, and there would be beasts horde from time to time. A large city of 1 million households could be destroyed in a beast horde, which would lead to utter misery. Even so, there were times when human warriors could not separate themselves from desolate beasts, as they could borrow the powers of the desolate beasts. This could be explained, starting with Aspect Totem. Aspect Totem was the symbol of a Yuan Foundation realm warrior. When a warrior was at the peak of the purple blood realm, they would condense all of their blood essence into their dantian, forging their qi and their blood foundation. This was the beginning of the Yuan Foundation. To build a lofty tower, one had to build a stable foundation. The Yuan Foundation was the foundation of the path of martial arts, and it was an extremely important step. After condensing one's Yuan Foundation, a warrior could absorb the energies of Heaven Earth Yuan Qi and rank up. It was something that no purple blood warrior could match. Just from this ability to gather energy, a warrior could gather the souls and power of desolates that escaped from a dead desolate beast that they had hunted in the wilderness. In the Yuan Foundation, they would be able to gather and condense a summon entity that belonged only to them. When in a battle with others, they could then summon it, which would create a huge phantom image to strengthen their powers. This summon entity was known as the Aspect Totem. Once the Aspect Totem was formed, it would always accompany the warrior. As a trademark, it was an important part of a warrior's fighting ability. Everyone's Aspect Totem had a difference. They could grow continually, evolve, and even morph. Warriors above the Yuan Foundation realm would often have to resort to using the Aspect Totem, when in a deathmatch with a difficult opponent, to increase their strength. This was the mark of a Yuan Foundation realm warrior going all out in battle. In the Tai Divine City, there was a heaven roll of honor. It was more important than the earth roll of honor. The way that the heaven roll was ranked depended on the number of desolate beasts one kills. The heaven roll's rewards were also the highest amongst the 3 rolls. The warriors who charged up the heaven roll would spend large amounts of time in the divine wilderness killing desolate beasts. One of the reasons was to gain glory points, the second reason was to condense and strengthen their Aspect Totem. The Aspect Totem could only be done by absorbing a desolate beast that one killed with their own hands. And it had to be done in a short time span after the death of the desolate beast, because the desolate beast's power of desolates and blood qi would dissipate if they were not absorbed. Before the Aspect Totem reached a bottleneck, one could form and strengthen their Aspect Totem by killing more desolate beasts. Hence, the cultivation method of the veteran cultivators of the Tai Divine City was to continuously hunt desolate beasts. It could increase their strength, and also, it would earn them resources. It was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As for Chu Xiaoran, having arrived in the Tai Divine City 3 months ago, she never took part in the rookie jobs due to her outstanding strength. She only went into the divine wilderness to hunt desolate beasts. This meant that she had a head start on all the other rookies. People originally thought Chu Xiaoran would, at most, earn more dragon scale runes. No one expected that she would condense a Aspect Totem. She can't be a Yuan Foundation realm warrior, right? Impossible. Even many of the cultivators who have been in the Tai Divine City for 3 to 4 years have yet to break through to the Yuan Foundation realm. Chu Xiaoran may be extremely gifted, but it cannot be to the point where she can break through so early. Besides, if you reach the Yuan Foundation realm too early, you might not be able to accumulate enough energy. And this is actually not beneficial. Many people discussed this. In the seats of honor, Elder Jinggu stroked his beard and looked at Chu Xiaoran with surprise. This is Aspect before Yuan. The Tai Divine City has not had a junior like this in a long time. Aspect Totem was something that warriors in the Yuan Foundation realm could perform. But in this world, there were always some exceptions. Some people had a close affinity with Heaven Earth Yuan Qi or Power of Desolates. With excellent perceptivity, they could coalesce an aspect totem that belonged to them in the purple blood realm. This sort of aspect totem was known as aspect before Yuan. By being able to demonstrate a small portion of the strength of a Yuan Foundation realm warrior, without being a Yuan Foundation realm warrior, it was obvious how strong their battle power would be. There were all sorts of specializations. Many geniuses had their own forte, but it was not easy to be good at everything. For example, Qin Haotian was an extraordinary swordsman, but even he could not form aspect before Yuan. This meant that Chu Xiaoran had an extraordinary talent in using aspect totem. The aspect totem was an important part of a divine wilderness warrior's battle power. It was really important for those of the Yuan Foundation realm or above. Obviously, the aspect totem had different strengths. The same aspect totem formed from the same type of desolate beast might have different powers, depending on the different warrior's absorption of the power of desolates. This was related to a person's talent and intelligence. And there was no doubt that Chu Xiaoran was one of the best. In the future, when she reached a higher realm, she would hold the upper hand against warriors of the same level. It was equivalent to her using a higher level aspect totem against others. Song Yan said, to be precise, it is not a complete aspect before Yuan. It is just embryonic aspect, but that is still pretty impressive. I think there is a need to take this little maiden to the sword tomb. Song Yan's eyes glowed with excitement. His expression looked like a grave robber who had just seen a rare treasure. Elder Jian Good simply gave a deep sigh. Surprisingly, he did not oppose it. That was because none of the people who were able to create an aspect before Yuan lacked perceptivity. Indeed, she should enter the sword tomb once. Jiangu said, this little maiden is also very sensitive to frost laws. Her aspect totem is also an ice elemental. She must have gained some insight into a portion of the ice elemental nomological truths. If not, it would not be that easy to form the embryonic form of aspect totem in the purple blood realm. The aspect totem could increase the strength of warriors, but it wasn't just a mere increase in a warrior's energy intensity. Another very important point was that it allowed warriors to gain further insight into laws related to energy. For example, Chu Xiaoran had a deep understanding of the hard soft and frost ice laws. The aspect totem she chose was an ice elemental in nature. She had been continuously hunting ice elemental desolate beasts. The power of desolates that escaped from these ice elemental desolate beasts was also ice elemental in nature. After Chu Xiaoran absorbed all of these ice elemental power of desolates, she merged them together into her aspect totem. Hence, her aspect totem was also an ice elemental. As a result, when Chu Xiaoran enters a battle, just from the help from the aspect totem, she would gain bonus effects when she used ice elemental Yuan Qi. It could be imagined as if Chu Xiaoran had brought a real ice elemental desolate beast, which had a telepathic connection with her, into battle against Yi Yun. It was equivalent to fighting 2 against 1. Is this aspect totem? This is my first time seeing this. So that's what it looks like. Yi Yun had no systematic study of martial arts. Even before leaving the Lian tribal clan, Yi Yun did not know what the realm above the purple blood realm was. Although he later learned about the Yuan Foundation, he did not know the hallmark of the Yuan Foundation realm warriors, nor what special abilities they possessed. Yi Yun did not even know how to go from the purple blood realm to the Yuan Foundation realm. Yi Yun had not seen many Yuan Foundation realm warriors before coming to the Tai a divine city. Besides Lin Xintong, Yi Yun had never seen them fight. And when he sparred with Lin Xintong, due to the great difference in ability, Lin Xintong naturally did not need to use her aspect totem. Author's note: many people asked Cocoon what martial art realms are there in a true martial world. About these setups, Cocoon has given them a great deal of thought. Different realms will not just have different names. There will be an essential difference. These setups will be written slowly as the plot unfolds. It will present an interesting and complete power system to everyone. Chapter 243, Emperor Saber, Sovereign Sword. After Chu Xiaoran summoned her aspect totem, her aura was completely different. A pure chill now covered her entire body. Seeing Chu Xiaoran in this state, the audience became secretly horrified. It was as if the person on stage was a snow lotus growing on an icy divine mountain. The glacier snow wolf behind her boosted this strong visual impact. Chu Xiaoran's blade faced the ground. What was once a soft-like water sword was now suddenly turning hard and sharp. This cold blade then stabbed into the purple tungsten stage. Phew! A cold wind blew out from the stage. Frost chi began to emanate, with Chu Xiaoran's sword as its center. Ka-cha! Ka-cha! Column after column of ice pillars formed on the stage's platform. The entire divine wilderness stage had now turned into a forest of ice, with Chu Xiaoran at the center. Yi Yun stood inside the ice forest, facing Chu Xiaoran's sword, experiencing the bone-chilling coldness around him. Seeing this scene, the audience became shocked. These ice pillars were formed from Chu Xiaoran's Yuan Qi. A purple blood realm warrior could actually form an ice forest using her body's Yuan Qi? How much Yuan Qi was that? A purple blood warrior's body had limited amount of Yuan Qi. If typical warriors were to do the same as Chu Xiaoran, they would be drained of all their body's Yuan Qi, making them unable to battle anymore. Oh! This ice forest! Yi Yun looked around and frowned slightly. He could feel that each ice column had a spiritual connection with Chu Xiaoran. Interfacing with his purple crystal, he opened his energy vision. Now Yi Yun could see that each ice column contained extremely pure energy. And this energy had thousands of connections with Chu Xiaoran. The ice column's energies came from Chu Xiaoran's body, but at the same time, these ice columns also gathered Yuan Qi from the surroundings to supply Chu Xiaoran. This is an array technique. Yi Yun suddenly realized. The ice forest may seem to consume a great portion of Chu Xiaoran's energy, but once it was set up, Chu Xiaoran would be supplied with energy from this array technique, while fighting within the ice forest's boundary. As a result, she would have an absolute advantage in it. Is this how the ice laws are used? Yi Yun knew that by controlling ice elemental energy, one could only use frost chi to attack enemies. It could definitely not be used to create such an exquisite array setup with magical effects. Laws are the fundamental principles behind energy. By grasping the understanding of laws, one would be able to wield their methods for using energy. The higher the realm of laws, then the application of energy would be closer to perfection. At this moment, Chu Xiaoran attacked. When she stabbed out, it was as if all the frost chi on the stage was drawn out. The energy within the ice column array was driven by Chu Xiaoran's attack, now sweeping towards Yi Yun. Peak Frost Lotus. Chu Xiaoran twisted her blade and the surge of frost chi formed a huge ice lotus in the air which shot towards Yi Yun. This unrestrained sword chi did not break through the ice columns when it entered the ice column inside the array, instead it moved through it unimpeded. Just from this move alone, one could see the level Chu Xiaoran had attained in her ice laws. Facing this attack, Yi Yun charged forward with pure Yang Yuan Qi injected into the Thousand Army Saber. With a slash of his blade, the Saber Chi laws appeared once again. Cha! The saber beam shot into the sky, and Yi Yun's Saber Chi had a fierce collision with Chu Xiaoran's Sword Chi. The two aimed to better the other. Boom! When the aftershock of the immense explosion approached, both Yi Yun and Chu Xiaoran were pushed back. When Yi Yun was retreating, his eyes suddenly focused and he abruptly lifted his head. Just above him, the huge glacier snow wolf was attacking him. Its white killer fangs flashed. Although it was a phantom image formed from the power of desolates, it could still fight like a real beast. The glacier snow wolf attacked downwards with both claws. Its 7 meters long body possessed claws that were like a row of sharp swords. These swords slashed at him, right at Yi Yun's throat. At this moment, Yi Yun had just finished his move, and having used up his energy, he could not muster any more at this time. Facing the Glacier Snow Wolf's attack, Ian forcefully twisted his body in midair. Minute subtlety. Although Ian could not fly, he could use his minute subtlety movement technique to be in one with his surroundings. He did not need to touch anything to control his movements. His body moved to the side, and at the same time, he slashed out with his saber. Dang! The Thousand Army saber clashed with the wolf's claws. Ian felt his chest go numb. Having received this strong blow, he retreated backwards. With his feet on the ground, he used the Thousand Army saber to cut through the ground. Due to the strong impact, Ian had slid backwards a distance of 7 meters. The Thousand Army saber had caused a series of sparks on the purple tungsten metal. Before Ian could recover his breath, he suddenly had a change in expression. He realized that he had landed in the middle of 6 ice columns. And in his energy vision, he could clearly see that these 6 ice columns were brighter than other ice columns. They had gathered a lot of energy and seemed like a volcano about to erupt. That's bad. Without any further thought, Ian leaped upwards. And just before he leaped up, the 6 ice columns exploded simultaneously. The flying ice fragments, which were like tiny ice swords, charged towards Ian. Sha! 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 Ian waved his Thousand Army saber and covered his entire body with saber beams. Each icicle was destroyed by the Thousand Army saber, but there were still some tiny icicles that pierced Ian's protective chi, cutting open Ian's flesh. Suddenly, blood started to fly everywhere. Ian had been injured. The audience were shocked. This was the first time Ian was injured in the competition. Chu Xiaoran's attack was too terrifying. Her continuous attacks were dazzling. Previously, Chu Xiaoran did not reveal her real strength. Against Long Li, she had achieved victory with her weakest abilities. This was not because Chu Xiaoran wanted to appear weak on purpose. The reason was that if she was to use her ice laws and aspect totem, her attacks would be like a storm. A person like Long Li would have no way of handling it. At this moment, before people could react, they saw Chu Xiaoran flying through the air like a snow spirit. Chu Xiaoran was now making her second move. Without stopping, she sent out attack after attack. Even the audience, who were watching the battle from the sidelines, had no chance to take a break, and even less so as he was on stage. Chu Xiaoran slashed her sword, making sword beams appear like a torrential ocean. At this moment, the color of Chu Xiaoran's eyes turned icy blue. It was as if her pupils contained endless glaciers within them. Chu Xiaoran slashed with her sword. Behind her, another 6 ice columns simultaneously exploded. The fragmented ice crystals were then guided by Chu Xiaoran's sword, flying towards Ian. At the same time, the Glacier Snow Wolf behind Chu Xiaoran howled. It then entered the sword and became the sword's soul. This, together with the fragmented ice crystals, was Chu Xiaoran's strongest attack. This was the extreme power of her attack. Azure Blue Frost Sea, Ephemeral Beauty. Chu Xiaoran softly said those words, as if they were a poem with a picturesque sword beam. If Chu Xiaoran was said to be a snow lotus, then the beauty she had been accumulating for a millennium was now being released in an instant. This attack seemed to stop time. Everyone's expression seemed to have frozen. Chu Xiaoran's strength was too terrifying, and it was deeply profound. It was heaven-shaking once it was revealed. How could one block such an attack? Seeing this torrential tide of blue sword beams shooting towards him, Ian constricted his pupils. His irises reflected the approaching sword beams. The cold frost chi and killing intent was going to destroy everything. At this moment, Ian's mind was as still as water. With his right hand gripping the Thousand Army saber's hilt, he injected all of his spirit energy into the saber's blade. Sabertruth's 32 words, killing at its core. In a split second, a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood seemed to appear behind Ian. Sure hell. The color of blood started to spread as cold killing intent sealed their surroundings. Back when the Saber-Tomb's owner gained his insight into the saber-truths, he had gone through numerous battles and killed a countless amounts of people. The real saber-truths were not something one could write in any book, it was something that had to be forged in the Shura-Hell's sea of blood. The way of the saber was to press forward with indomitable will to kill everything. This attack was the strongest saber move Yun learned in the Saber-Tomb. When he slashed his saber, it was as if everything in the world disappeared, leaving only a blood-red blade beam. It looked as if it would slice through the arena. What? This is. At the moment Yun slashed out, Sun Yan and Jiangu became deeply shocked. Sun Yan even stood up from his seat. This kid. Sun Yan's eyes lit up. Previously, when Xu Xiaoran condensed the aspect before Yuan phenomenon and displayed her ice laws, Sun Yan and Jiangu were only appreciative. They were not as shocked as they were now. Yun's saber and Xu Xiaoran's sword collided once again. The saber was like an emperor. The sword was like a sovereign. Boom! The ice crystals shattered, the white wolf howled, and the sea of blood swelled. There was a terrifying explosion, which caused a shockwave to materialize and spread throughout the arena. Sha! 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 Pieces of ice crystals pierced Yun's protective Yuan Qi. The power of Desolates, which formed the glacier's snow wolf, also surged through Yun's body in meridians in a rampant manner. Yun even felt his blood momentarily freeze. Although he quickly circulated his pure yang qi to melt the frost qi, it still left Yun pale, and his blood flow chaotic. He was once again injured. He could deeply feel the scariness of Xu Xiaoran. She was strong, not only in her strength, but also in her battle tactics, techniques, and in her understanding of the laws. When Yun gained insight into the killer moves of the Saber-Truth's 32 words, he was in no way weaker than Xu Xiaoran in terms of attack power. But with her techniques, she managed to overwhelm him with her attacks. Xu Xiaoran had even estimated where he would land after blocking the Glacier Snow Wolf's attack. She had gathered the energy within the 6 ice columns ahead of time to explode the moment Yun landed on the ground. From the first attack and the Glacier Snow Wolf's attack combo, followed up by the ice column's explosion, these 3 attacks were the foundation of Xu Xiaoran's final attack. This attack was Xu Xiaoran's real death blow. These type of calculations for this one attack was unbelievable, and Xu Xiaoran was just a 13-year-old girl. Chapter 244, Victory and Defeat. Those who watched the match between Yun and Xu Xiaoran were at a loss for words on how to describe it. The arena, that could hold thousands of people, had become so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Although they were also elites, when they compared themselves with Yun and Xu Xiaoran, they felt that there was a huge gap between them and this duo. In front of this duo, they did not dare to refer to themselves as elites. They felt more like they were ordinary people. Xu Xiaoran is frightening. It is a surprise that she hid so much of her power. Not only does she have extraordinary perceptivity, she has even formed aspect before Yuan. Even her battle tactics were well planned. She almost managed to corner Yun. That Yun is also ridiculously strong. After receiving such a combo attack, he was still able to handle Xu Xiaoran's final attack, though he did receive injuries. Yun was now in the middle of the stage, his body covered with plenty of bloody wounds. One could see that Yun's blood was in chaos, it was most likely due to Xu Xiaoran's frost qi entering his body. In contrast, besides some messy hair and a bit of damage to her clothes, Xu Xiaoran was not injured at all. Yun's final attack, killing at its core, had been suppressed by Xu Xiaoran's azure blue frost sea, ephemeral beauty. Xu Xiaoran held the absolute upper hand in the final blow. The Saber-Truth's 32 words were profound, allowing Yun to touch the genius of the Saber-Truths, but Yun did not have enough time to gain further insights into the Saber-Truths. No matter how heaven-defying the Saber-Truth's 32 words were, Yun had gained far too little insight in them until now. His saber attack was not as powerful as Xu Xiaoran's final sword attack. Will Yun lose to Xu Xiaoran? Seeing this situation, Chu Xiaoran clearly had the advantage. Yi Yun was already injured and he was still standing inside Chu Xiaoran's ice array. People looked forward to seeing either Chu Xiaoran's unstoppable stance, where she would use her advantage to defeat Yi Yun, or Yi Yun reversing the situation and obtaining victory with a counterattack. As for what people were hoping for, no one expected what was to happen next. Chu Xiaoran suddenly turned to the referee and sighed, "I admit defeat." What? When Chu Xiaoran said this, the entire audience became stupefied. Chu Xiaoran admitted defeat. She clearly had the upper hand. She had completely overwhelmed Yi Yun with her final blow. Why did she admit defeat? Chu Xiaoran did not bother to explain and merely began walking off the stage. Just as she was about to step off the stage, she turned around and looked at Yi Yun. "My loss to you today was due to my unrefined skills. In the future, when I have consolidated my aspect totem, and when I am able to fully control the ice forest array, I will battle you once more." After having said that, Chu Xiaoran walked straight to the arena's exit. She was leaving just like that. People were shocked. What was going on? In what aspect did Chu Xiaoran lose? Why did she admit defeat? Was there something in the last move that they did not understand? For example, did Yi Yun have the opportunity to take Chu Xiaoran's life, but because of the no-killing rule, or because he had tender feelings for women, he deliberately stayed his blade? People began speculating. Yi Yun and Chu Xiaoran's strengths were stronger than a vast majority of them. It was normal for them not to understand certain aspects of the battle. But amongst these speculations, someone disagreed. The person who disagreed was a veteran cultivator, who was ranked in the top 1,000 of the Earth Roll. "It is none of those," the person shook his head, "it's stamina." Chu Xiaoran had injected all of her Yuan Qi into her final attack. It was her killing blow and her only attack. By not defeating her opponent, she lost. The attack's power may have been very strong, and it had great understanding of the laws contained within it, but, as a Purple Blood Realm warrior, she had used the aspect totem that Yuan Foundation Realm warriors use. This had already caused a great strain on her Yuan Qi consumption. Not only that, she also formed the Ice Forest Array, which further increased her strength, but it also used more of her Yuan Qi. After using those techniques, it was already a miracle that Chu Xiaoran could attack twice. But that was her limit. Chu Xiaoran must have learned this move recently, so there would be many limitations to using it. Hearing the person's explanation, people were dumbfounded. Stamina! So that was it. It made sense. That type of terrifying attack was definitely not one that someone could use again and again. But Yi Yun should also have been greatly drained. Chu Xiaoran spent so much of her stamina, so there's no reason why Yi Yun should have that much more left. Actually, there is a reason. The person looked at Yi Yun and, after some thought, he explained, from the beginning of the match, Yi Yun had been dodging most of the time. Thus, his energy consumption was far less than Chu Xiaoran's. Furthermore, Yi Yun did not use any moves that greatly increased his battle power, so he would have more Yuan Qi than Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran must have seen through this and felt that she could no longer win if it dragged on, so she admitted defeat. Hearing this person's explanation, everyone felt enlightened. It was stamina that allowed Yi Yun to win. He may have lost the final clash, but he had won in terms of stamina. After all, stamina was a part of one's strength. But compared to the understanding of laws and concepts, as well as the cultivation techniques one learned, stamina was secondary. This was because, as a warrior's cultivation level became higher, their Yuan Qi would grow thicker, which would naturally increase their stamina. As for cultivation levels, those were just a matter of time for the elites present. But the understanding of laws and concepts, as well as the cultivation techniques one learned, they were all different. This was a person's foundation. They determined a person's martial arts attainment in the future. The degree of a person's talent was comprehensively determined by these factors. The talent Chu Xiaoran had with laws and totems, was the reason why many found her terrifying. Chu Xiaoran, having just learned this move, was at a disadvantage for not having it well honed. In the future, when Chu Xiaoran ranks up, solidifying her foundations and improving her understanding of the laws, the result will be completely different when she then battles Yi Yun again, someone said. It is possible. But Yi Yun is also not bad himself. Although he does not have much in the understandings of laws, and cannot form an aspect before Yuan, his saber is still really terrifying. Just with that saber, he could slash through anything. In this rookie ranking competition, Yi Yun had only slashed his saber a few times. But each slash he produced shocked the hearts of many. When the saber beam flared, even at tens of meters away, they would feel as if the beam was close by. Everyone agreed to what was said. But someone still shook his head. Saber truths are just killing moves. It may be strong, and it could kill someone mercilessly, but just killing moves aren't much compared to a person's cultivation techniques and concepts. It is not the foundation of a warrior. If Yi Yun is not impressive in other aspects, many cultivators will slowly catch up with him. Just his saber moves alone will not allow him to last long in the Tai Divine City. Amongst the veteran cultivators, Qin Haoqian, who is excellent in the way of the sword, doesn't fully rely on his sword alone. The person who said this was a veteran cultivator. In the Tai Divine Kingdom, people had always weighed cultivation techniques over attack moves. This was because a person's cultivation technique could allow one to go far. Attack moves, however, just allowed one to shine amongst people of the same level. If one could not raise one's level in the future and then not become a sage, then no matter how strong their attack moves were, their lifespan would be shorter than others. So what was the point to it then? This was something that most people present understood. Yi Yun's saber moves were strong, while Chu Xiaoran was good at laws and aspects. But, relatively speaking, people were more optimistic about Chu Xiaoran's future. Perhaps, in 4 years' time, the number one person on the heaven and earth rolls would be Chu Xiaoran. Even in her last battle against Yi Yun, many people felt that Chu Xiaoran did not deserve to lose. After all, in the final attack, Chu Xiaoran held the absolute advantage. Also, Chu Xiaoran's combo attack and the Ice Forest array were stunning. She had only lost due to her lack of stamina. The second last day of the rookie ranking competition had ended. Many people were prepared to leave, but seeing the two elders present, they felt that it would be more polite to let the elders leave first. But on the seats of honor, Jiangu and Song Yan had no intentions of leaving. Jiangu had his head slightly bowed as if deep in thought, while Song Yan was stroking his beard. His eyes were moving around, with no way of guessing what he was thinking about. Although the last move Yi Yun made had been suppressed by Chu Xiaoran's sword, it still shocked them greatly. The rookies and veteran cultivators in the arena did not know the significance of this attack. Even some of the law enforcers only had a vague understanding. But the two old men, Jiangu and Song Yan, knew it well. In no exaggerating terms, that one move had opened up the path of Yi Yun's martial arts. The law enforcers besides Song Yan and Jiangu did not move and stood still as they saw that the elders had no intentions of leaving. Many cultivators glanced at the seats of honor. They did not know why the two elders were still sitting there. Would they review the battle? But even after waiting for a long while, the two elders still did nothing. They could only decide whether they should leave or not. It is unexpected that the rookie ranking competition would end prematurely. This year's rookie ranking competition sure was exciting. It may have ended, but there is still tomorrow. Do you plan on watching? I don't think so. Chu Xiaoran and Yi Yun have already fought, and there is no more suspense left in the rankings. But Chu Xiaoran and Yi Yun might carry on challenging the higher-ranking veteran cultivators? According to the rules of the rookie ranking competition, once the rookies competed against one another, as long as one beat the other, the winner would be ranked ahead of the loser. Even if Chu Xiaoran were to exceed Yi Yun's ranking on the Earth roll tomorrow, Yi Yun would still be ranked first amongst the rookies. There was no more suspense. challenging veteran cultivators? It should also be an exciting match, but I can probably guess. As Yi Yun and Chu Xiaoran have similar strengths, they should both rank somewhere around the top 2,000. 2,000? Probably. They might even enter 1900. I plan on watching tomorrow's matches. I want to see if they can enter the top 2,000. People began discussing, they were secretly horrified. It was terrifying to think that people could enter the top 2,000 from the rookie ranking competition alone. After all, the people ranked there were already trying to form their Yuan Foundation. People began to stand up as they planned to leave the arena. Yi Yun had sheathed his 1,000 army saber and he was also prepared to leave. He had a lot to digest after today's battle. Chu Xiaoran may have lost to him, but she had still given him a lesson. Chu Xiaoran taught Yi Yun that a battle could be fought in such a way. The path of martial arts could be trained in this manner. As Yi Yun was preparing to leave, he suddenly heard a familiar but wretched Yuan Qi voice transmission. Rotten rascal, aren't you going to say hello before you leave? Don't you know courtesy, or how to show your elders respect? Chapter 245, Rushing Up the Earth Roll. Hearing this voice, Yi Yun turned his head. He saw Song Yan waving at him from the seats of honor. At this moment, the old man was smiling happily, revealing a row of bright white teeth. This old man. Yi Yun groaned in his mind. However, he was still very grateful towards Song Yan. Although Song Yan did not have any real intentions of grooming him and it was all the result of an unintentional fluke, it was still a significant event for Yi Yun. It could be said that Song Yan had pointed out a new path on the road of martial arts for Yi Yun. The path of martial arts was extensive and profound, abstruse and complicated. There were too many things a martial artist could choose between. If one had the skill, one could choose everything. But without skill, focusing on a single aspect and doing well in it would be the best choice. Yi Yun's contact with martial arts had so far been very short. There were many things he did not know. Things like the saber truths, 32 words, aspect totems and nomological truths, were all realms that Yi Yun had no previous contact with. He was like a dried-up sponge that had been thrown into an ocean of martial arts. Now, he was greedily absorbing all of it. Yi Yun walked towards Song Yan and Jian Gu. At this moment, the vast majority of the audience had yet to stand up to show respect for the elders, so when they saw Yi Yun walking towards the elders, they were shocked. The elder called Yi Yun over. Everyone saw Song Yan waving his hand. Many turned envious when they saw that an elder of the Tai A Divine City was calling over a newcomer with such a friendly expression. Yi Yun greets Elder Jian Gu and greets Senior. Yi Yun still did not know Song Yan's name. What you just used was a saber technique learned from the Saber Truth's 32 words, correct? Elder Jian Gu asked as he looked at Yi Yun. Yes. Yi Yun nodded. Just as he said this, he felt his heart go cold. Once again, Yi Yun felt that his body was being seen through. He felt that Elder Jian Ji's eyes were seeing through every inch of his flesh and blood, all the way into his bones. Even the heaven's eyeball he had formed was now being carefully examined by Elder Jian Gu. Of course. Jian Gu did not find anything in particular. The purple crystal in Yi Yun's chest carried on pulsating within Yi Yun's heart. It did not deliberately hide itself, as if it completely ignored Jian Ji's action. It was as if it was a god that treated mortal beings with indifference. Old man Jian, what are you checking? Could it be that you think this junior has had a fortuitous chance that has caught your interest? Song Yan noticed Jian Ji's actions and teased him with a Yuan Qi voice transmission. Jian Gu slightly frowned and replied with a Yuan Qi transmission, don't frivolously joke around. How can I covet what belongs to a junior? I am merely curious. But it seems that he does not possess some amazing chance. His constitution is average. Maybe he ate some treasure, opening up his meridians, allowing him to complete the beginning steps of martial arts. As for his perceptivity, it should be inborn. Yi Yun's constitution was average. As a sage, that much was obvious at a glance. Besides, Yi Yun's cultivation level was not too ridiculous. It had not even reached the late stages of purple blood yet. Relative to other aspects of him, this purple blood cultivation level was not much. Did you read any top saber manuals before you entered the saber tomb? Jiangu asked again. If Yi Yun had some fortuitous event by being able to read some saber truth mystic techniques, then Jiangu could comprehend this situation better. Of course, this was very unlikely. However, Yi Yun shook his head. Elder Jiangu nodded slightly. I understand. In the future, if you want to enter the saber tomb again, you can just go through me or Song Yan. We will not require you to pay anything. As for other resources, if you want to use those, you will still have to pay the usual price. That is the rules of the Tai Divine City. Nothing could be accomplished without rules. Naturally, the survival of the fittest rules that the Tai Divine City enforced on the cultivators had to be followed. The saber tomb was not used by anyone, so there was no point in leaving it idle. There was no problem in letting Yi Yun freely use it. But other resources were not the same. Many of them were vied for by other cultivators, risking their lives for them. If the elders practiced favoritism and directly gave them to Yi Yun, it would be hard to placate the masses. Upon hearing this, Yi Yun was overjoyed. He really wanted to enter the saber tomb again. But 1 glory point a day was far too expensive. He could not afford to enter it even if he was rich. Kid, you lucked out. Song Yan chuckled. Practice well. It is unknown which amazing person passed down the saber truth's 32 words. Even sages who entered the tomb were unable to gain a lot of insight from those words. What? Even sages were unable to understand it. Hearing Song Yan's words shocked Yi Yun. Sages were omnipotent figures to Yi Yun, but now Song Yan said that even sages were helpless against the saber truth's 32 words. There is little common ground for understanding between people of differing principles. The saber and sword tomb have been sleeping underneath the Tai Divine City for tens of millions of years. Sages can enter them freely, but not every sage is proficient with saber or sword truths. Even those accomplished in the way of the sword or saber may not be able to adapt to the laws hidden within the saber and sword tomb. Song Yan said and glanced at Jiangu. Old man Jian uses a sword. He has the most authority on this. Elder Jiangu was famous for his sword. His sword was always held behind his back. He never kept it within an interspatial ring. This was to allow him to subtly transform, to slowly become one with the sword. The Tai Divine City's cultivators had never seen Elder Jian Ji's swordplay. But just from his title, the sage famous for his sword, that was more than sufficient to explain Jian Ji's achievement in the way of the sword. Hearing Song Yan mention his experience and learning from the sword tomb, Jiangu filled with mixed emotions. He said, "When I was young, I indeed entered the sword tomb. After trying to gain insights for several months, I finally got some results. But after I learned a few of the sword moves, I slowly reached a bottleneck. I was stumped by some of the sword truths. I could not understand them or grasp them. Later on, I continued to constantly make new attempts. These attempts took me 1,000 years. Within this period, I tried many different methods which I thought was the correct path to take, but I was still unable to go any further. 1,000 years. Yi Yun was alarmed. In this alternate world, it seemed like 1,000 years was nothing. Being a person who had lived for about 2 decades in his previous life, he clearly knew the concept of 1,000 years. A mortal dynasty would last for just about 300 years. Jiangu said, "It might be that the understandings of the sword truths I gained at the very beginning may have already been leading me astray, without my knowledge. Although I might have gone astray, the things I gained from the tomb were still useful. The sword tomb's way of the sword is a large path. Its realm is extremely high, so high that I cannot fathom it. It is like a gigantic maze. By being in it, I did not know which path would be the correct one. I could only walk through it haphazardly. Maybe when I eventually reach the exit, will I finally know that I was walking on the correct path, but that is too far away for me. Large path? Yi-Yun was slightly stunned. A large path that even made a sage feel despair, and even to the point of going astray. Furthermore, he could not even verify if he had done so. Yes, it is a large path. In the Tai Divine Kingdom, people have always weighed cultivation techniques over attack moves. This is understandable. After all, a cultivation technique can allow a person to break through to different realms, while attack moves cannot. But in fact, attack moves and paths are two different things. Saber moves are saber moves, while the saber truths are the way of the saber. They are fundamentally different. If you can understand the essence of the way of the saber, then it will be the same as understanding nomological truths. It can assist you in becoming a peak sage, and maybe even reach a higher realm, but that is too difficult. Elder Jian-gu sighed. He had only said this casually. Although he appreciated Yi-Yun, he had never thought of the possibility that Yi-Yun would one day be able to reach such a point. Peak Sage was a realm reached by the founding emperor of the Tai Divine Kingdom and the first city lord of the Tai Divine City. As for exceeding a sage, this was not worth mentioning. In the entire history, ever since the Tai Divine Kingdom was founded, there had never been a person who exceeded a sage. Due to the arduous path of martial arts, the words casually spoken by Elder Jian Ji's might have been due to some regrets he felt, but this greatly benefited Yi-Yun. Saber moves. Saber truths. Since the words in the saber tune were something Jian-Gut described as a large path, then it was certain that it would allow him to go far in the future. Yi-Yun had the purple crystal origins. The vision the purple crystal origins gave Yi-Yun allowed him to see the origins of energy. With this qualification, and him being able to freely enter the saber tune, he had everything aligned in his favor. If he still could not gain something out of it, Yi-Yun's inability to comprehend it could no longer be justified. Let's understand it. Let's see how far I can walk on this path. Jian-Gu and Song Yan left, leaving behind Yi-Yun, who was still ruminating over the words spoken to him by the two elders. As for the others there, they were looking enviously at Yi-Yun. As the two elders had isolated their voices by generating an invisible Yuan Qi force field, all the other cultivators present did not know the contents of the conversation between Yi-Yun and the two elders. But from the pleasant expression the elder had, it was obvious that they appreciated Yi-Yun. If they could be called over by an elder to receive guidance, it was something worth losing a decade of their lives over. As people were admiring Yi-Yun, they saw Yi-Yun walking down from the seats of honor, towards the referee. Oh? What's the matter? The referee made the initiative to ask as he saw Yi-Yun walking over. Previously, this referee had seen Yi-Yun talking to the two elders. For a junior to be paid attention to by elders, it was insufficient from being the number one rookie. The referee also thought highly of Yi-Yun because of the elders' appreciation. Oh. It's this. I want to declare the opponent I want to challenge tomorrow. After Yi-Yun against Wen Chu Xiaoran, he had clinched the title of being number one amongst the rookies. It created a premature end to the rookie ranking competition. But he could still battle to rush up the earth roll tomorrow. Oh? Tomorrow's opponents? You can tell me tomorrow. There's no hurry. The referee looked at Yi-Yun in an amiable manner. It was good that Yi-Yun wanted to carry on rushing upwards. I think it's best to say it now, so that the person has some time to prepare. Yi-Yun grinned with a bright smile. For some unknown reason, the referee hesitated for a moment when he saw Yi-Yun smile. It felt like there was something malevolence hidden within that smile. Prepare? The referee was curious. It was just a match, not a training excursion outside. What was there to prepare? Chapter 246, let the boss prepare. As Yi Yun spoke to the referee, many of the cultivators present were looking at them. Yi Yun was at the center of attention, so it was even more eye-catching when he spoke to the referee. The spectators suddenly realized that Yi Yun was submitting his challenge for tomorrow. Yi Yun is climbing up the earth roll, someone said excitedly. Yi Yun's next match was definitely going to be exciting. That's for sure. It is not only Yi Yun, but even Xu Xiaoran should carry on climbing up. With their strength already revealed, they can at least enter the top 2,000. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. The audience was buzzing with activity. Some were looking forward to it, while others were sullen. Especially the veteran cultivators who were ranked around the top 2,000. They did not look forward to it. Their positions had suddenly become very delicate. If they were unlucky and got challenged by Yi Yun or Xu Xiaoran, it might become a tragedy for them. Just from today's battle, they knew that Yi Yun and Xu Xiaoran's level of strength was very similar. Neither one of them would be an easy opponent. It was definitely not easy for them to win. The veterans were older and they had a higher cultivation level. They had been around and about for a longer period of time. It was not admirable for them to beat their opponent by a small margin. That was just being optimistic. But if one was being pessimistic, they could even lose accidentally, and that would be shameful. There was no benefit in winning, and losing meant that you would lose a lot of face. No one wanted to be picked for a battle like that. I wonder who the kid will challenge. Many people began to focus their ears on Yi Yun's words. The arena was very quiet. With the hearing abilities of a warrior, unless there was a soundproof Yuan Qi force field like the one Elder Jiangu used, they would clearly be able to hear what someone was saying. At this moment, Yi Yun was still smiling. He did not say anything out loud, but he transmitted his voice, using Yuan Qi, to the referee. There is still a need to prepare. This is so he does not get surprised. The referee found Yi Yun's explanation odd. What did it mean by not being surprised? This was not a battle between two armies. There was no need to set up an array or anything. Unless a warrior was injured, they could enter the arena at any time. But as if Yi Yun wanted to be considerate towards his opponent, the referee could only nod his head. Since you insist, all right. I will inform the person you challenge in advance. Who do you plan on challenging? The referee thought that since Yi Yun was being this considerate, the opponent was unlikely to be that strong. Yi Yun was most likely challenging someone who was ranked around 2,100 to 2,200 on the earth roll. Other cultivators were having similar thoughts as well. After all, Yi Yun still had 2 matches left tomorrow. After fighting someone in the 2,100 to 2,200 ranking, he could secure his rank and then he could attempt to enter the top 2,000 in his second match. Yi Yun handed over the challenge form that he had already filled to the referee. The referee received it and glanced at it. Immediately his eyelid twitched. What? You are challenging Li Hong? The one ranked 1028 on the earth roll, Li Hong. Li Hong. The surrounding cultivators were dumbstruck when they learned who Yi Yun's next opponent was. The Hongdao Association's president, Li Hong? Yi Yun actually wanted to challenge him? Originally, they thought that it would be impressive if Yi Yun challenged someone in the top 2,000. But he actually challenged Li Hong, who was ranked at 1028. What was he thinking? Li Hong previously had misgivings with Yi Yun. 2 months ago, Li Hong wanted Yi Yun's glory points and he tried to cheat them off Yi Yun. But Yi Yun did not buy his scheme and became an enemy of his. This was something everyone knew. But misgivings were just misgivings. This was the earth roll competition that was determined by a person's strength. Was this challenge just a show of emotions? Li Hong was no pushover. Out of all the second-year cultivators, he was the strongest. Li Hong had already climbed into the top 1,000 in the heaven roll ranking. And as for the Earth Roll ranking, he had reached 1028 last month. It was especially difficult to rank up as you get closer to the top 1000, as most of the people were nearly approaching the Yuan Foundation realm. It could be said that their strength was at the extreme peak of the Purple Blood realm. This included Li Hong himself. It could be said, without any exaggeration, that the strongest Purple Blood realm warriors in the Tai Divine Kingdom were converged around this ranking. There was intense competition for the places around this position. There were even some Yuan Foundation realm warriors, who had comparatively poorer cultivation techniques or attack moves, that were ranked below Li Hong. For Yuan Foundation realm warriors to rank below Li Hong, it showed that Li Hong's strength was great. The number 1 rookie is challenging the second-year cultivator's number 1, incredible. Someone said. Both of them were the best in their respective years, and to challenge someone who was a year above you in such a circumstance was extremely rare in the Tai Divine City. Li Hong is only around half a month from breaking through to the Yuan Foundation. Once he breaks through into the Yuan Foundation, there is no doubt that he will enter the top 1000. He might even enter the top 700. Li Hong did not manage to enter the top 1000 within a year. But he still managed to earn a heaven ranking of 1030 in 13 months and an earth ranking of 1100. That was quite terrifying. It was not every year you had perversely strong people like Chu Xiaoran and Yi Yun. Yi Yun challenging Li Hong, why do I feel Yi Yun can't beat him at all? Many people were having such thoughts. Yi Yun and Chu Xiaoran's battle was interesting, but they were a distance away from someone ranked just beyond the 1000th place on the Earth Roll. People could understand that Yi Yun had challenged Li Hong out of emotion, but if he were to be beaten up by Li Hong, he might get seriously injured. If that happened, would it not be depressing? What is Yi Yun thinking? He probably doesn't know what it means to be around the top 1000 on the Earth Roll, or does he have some more hidden strength? More hidden strength? He's only in the middle stages of Purple Blood, what more is there to hide? Could he have managed to produce the aspect before Yuan? That's impossible. The moment he came to the Tai Divine City, he has been working. He never went out to hunt desolate beasts. People found it incomprehensible. They felt that Yi Yun was asking to be tortured by challenging Li Hong. Previously Li Hong had oppressed Yi Yun, but he ended up losing a lot of money to Yi Yun. Li Hong was just thinking of causing trouble for Yi Yun. But Yi Yun came knocking on his door. There were a few Hongdao Association members sitting at the corner of the arena. When they heard that Yi Yun was challenging their president, they were instantly furious. Who does this kid think he is? He should piss on a mirror to look at himself. He thinks he is invincible just because he is the best amongst the rookies. He's courting death. Seeing that Yi Yun was so arrogant to the point of challenging their boss in public, a few of them became outraged immediately. But upon further thinking, this was not necessarily a bad thing. Since Yi Yun was dumb enough to come knocking on their boss' door, they should take this opportunity to beat Yi Yun up seriously and also make him suffer a great monetary loss. Yes, make him suffer a great monetary loss. Previously, they had suffered greatly due to Yi Yun. A bunch of brats had lined up just to be knocked down by Yi Yun's brick. Not only did they get bricked, they even gave Yi Yun a large sum of dragon scale runes. Just thinking about the dragon scale runes made their hearts bleed. Let's report this to the boss immediately. A few of Li Hong's henchmen suddenly thought it through. Li Hong was not present. He had been absent for the past few days. He was not interested in seeing other people steal the show. Especially this afternoon, when Yi Yun appeared and shocked everyone. Even if Li Hong was present, he would leave prematurely. He would feel terrible if he saw Yi Yun being that outstanding. Brothers, we should take this opportunity to make sure Yi Yun suffers greatly. We must let the boss prepare in advance, said a 13-year-old youth who lost a great sum of dragon scales to Yi Yun. Those who had lost monetarily would usually hope to win it back through gambling. This was the mentality of a gambler. It was not desirable, but very few people could rein themselves in before it was too late. That's right. Even the boss is tight on money. He still needs to prepare for tomorrow. We will make sure that Yun vomits out the dragon scale runes when the boss beats him. The Hongdao Association had lost a great deal of runes in the betting pool, so Li Hong was currently penniless. This henchman thought that if Li Hong were to bet against Yun, he could win it all back in one go. And the so-called preparation was to gather sufficient funds for the bet. This was the reason why Yun announced his opponent in advance. If he were to suddenly announce that he wanted to challenge Li Hong tomorrow, due to the lack of time and that Li Hong was poor, what sort of decent bet could he offer? But if it was mentioned today, Li Hong would have the time to prepare. With his connections, he should still be able to gather a tidy sum of dragon scale runes. Yun had been keeping his trump card from the beginning. This trump card was specifically prepared to cheat Li Hong. A few henchmen stood up. With either an outraged look or a smile, they glanced at Yun. This expression seemed to say, "Kid, just you wait." They quietly left the arena and rushed straight to Li Hong to inform him so he could prepare for the battle tomorrow. Unfortunately, when Yun said to the referee give the person some time to prepare, he had used Yuan Qi to transmit his voice. Those henchmen did not hear it. If they did, these youths would probably have figured out something was amiss. Chapter 247, The Son of King Chu. Li Hong had been feeling upset for the past few days. After being tricked by Yun, who was a first-year rookie, his reputation in the Tai Divine City was ruined. How could he feel happy? He was a big brother figure in the Tai Divine City, and in the capital, he was the famous young Master Hong. The most important thing to him was his face. Now, his face had been tainted by others. How could Li Hong feel any comfort? Once a warrior's mind was at an unease, their body's Yuan Qi would also turn chaotic like their mind. So, it was easy to become stuck in their cultivation. Li Hong was at the critical moment of breaking through to the Yuan Foundation realm, but when this happened, he felt as gross as eating sh*t. Li Hong kept thinking of ways to save the situation. However, Yun's strength was rising rapidly. Although Li Hong was conceited, he still had to admit that in about half a year's time, he would not be able to beat Yun anymore. Once that happened, it would be even harder to save the situation. He needed an opportunity to deal with Yun, but where could he find this opportunity? As Li Hong was thinking, a disturbance erupted outside. "Brother Hong! Brother Hong! Something big has happened. That kid Yun has challenged you. He wants to fight you in the arena tomorrow." A few henchmen were charging into Li Hong's courtyard, like a pack of hungry dogs, as they cried out. When Li Hong heard this, he was stunned. Yun is challenging me? Li Hong was slow to react. He was just thinking of getting his revenge on Yun to save his face, but now Yun had taken the initiative to knock on his door? However, this made him feel odd. Is this kid mad? Or was there another reason? Li Hong's face turned sullen. He had some misgivings about the way that Yun challenged him. Was it a trap? "Boss, why are you?" A few of Li Hong's henchmen expected him to be fuming mad, laughing heartily when he received the news, cursing at Yun's stupidness and his desire to be beaten up. They did not expect Li Hong to react in such a manner. It was neither anger nor happiness. "Did you make a video disc array of Yun's match?" Li Hong suddenly asked. Although he did not want to be present to watch Yun's match, it was a must to watch the video disc array or he would not be able to understand Yun's strength. The henchmen smacked themselves in the forehead. They had forgotten about it and they were single-mindedly rushing here to inform Li Hong. "We'll go back and get it." A few henchmen rushed back. In the Tai Divine City, there were many backups of the recordings of the arena's matches. The more intense the battle, the more backups there were. They could be kept for many years, and so as long as one could pay a small amount of dragon scale runes, they could be rented for viewing. Soon, these brats obtained a disc array and they rushed back to Li Hong's courtyard breathlessly. When they returned, they did not expect to see so many people in Li Hong's courtyard. A large number of the people who were present were part of the backbone of the Hongdao Association. A few of them were also veteran cultivators in the Tai A Divine City. When the brats saw these people, they were shocked. They vaguely knew that Li Hong had a wide circle of friends and he had many powerful friends amongst the veteran cultivators. They were all the people near the top of the heaven and earth roll of honors. There was even a person ranked in the top 50, and he was nicknamed Hu Tu. Oh, it's him, right? The brats saw this tall and thin teenager who looked 17 to 19 years old. This person had a necklace full of large beads on his neck, and his arm had a fierce divine tiger tattooed on it. Hu Tu was a veteran cultivator who had been in the Tai A Divine City for about 4 years. He had long broken through to the Yuan Foundation realm. He still had a year and 9 months left before he graduated. By ranking in the top 50 on the Earth roll, he was definitely one of the best amongst his class of cultivators. Let's watch it and analyze it. Li Hong was naturally suspicious. He erred on the side of caution by calling people over. Hu Tu, who had great foresight, might even be able to tell if Yi Yun had any hidden strength. A few henchmen took the disc arrays of Yi Yun's match and left it on a table for a group of people to gather around it to study it. Li Hong mainly wanted to obtain the opinions of veteran cultivators like Hu Tu. After analyzing it in all sorts of manner for a long time, they could not figure anything out. They could only make some general speculations from Yi Yun's battle. But no matter how hard they looked at it, Yi Yun seemed to have went all out during his battle with Chu Xiaoran. Li Hong, I think that the possibility of Yi Yun having any more hidden strength is low. If he can still have hidden strength under such circumstances, then his acting is just too good. He might even have targeted you from the beginning. But he's just a little kid. How can he think of all this when the rookie ranking competition began? Don't forget, he had been at odds with the entire Hongdao Association. A huge group of people from the Hongdao Association had challenged Yi Yun, including Lu Yuxing, who was considered one of the best amongst the rookies. Together with the best rookies, Chu Xiaoran and Xioniao, Yi Yun had to face such opponents. Adding the high-stakes bets, he would already be worried over all these things. Do you expect him to have planned such a trap, while handling all those, just to let you, Li Hong, jump into it? Hu Tu was the first person to express his opinion. What he said was reasonable. Yi Yun was, after all, only 13 years old. A typical child would be confused when they faced all sorts of complicated problems. If he could even plan a trap at this point of time and lure Li Hong into it, then he was not normal at all. Li Hong frowned and said, probably. If this battle had to be fought, then a bet had to be prepared. Even if he did not want to bet, he still had to do so. By being forced into such a situation, if he did not bet anything, then he would lose all his standing amongst the Hongdao Association's members. The other cultivators in the Tai A Divine City would even ridicule him. But Li Hong had still not thought of the item to bet on. The crux of the issue was he did not have many resources he could use. As Li Hong was thinking about it, a sudden laughter ranged. Ha ha ha. Li Hong, you actually opened a huge conference to discuss if you would lose, just because a rookie is challenging you. Do you have no shame? This sudden voice made Li Hong's face livid. What the other person said was true. To be frightened before the battle after being challenged by a rookie, and holding such a huge analysis conference, he would lose all face if people found this out. Li Hong turned angry from embarrassment. Just as he was about to flare up, he saw the person who spoke out and immediately shut up. The person who walked in was dressed in a Qilin robe, with a 9-python belt and moccasins. He had a natural air of nobility from top to bottom. Yang Dingkuan. The 15-year-old young man who came was the son of King Chu. King Chu was a noble who had a long history in the Tai A Divine Kingdom. His bloodline could be traced all the way back to the first King Chu, who was the younger brother of the Taiya Divine Kingdom's founding emperor, so his family was also part of the royal family. Later on, he was infeft with the Chu state, so he became the vassal of the Chu state all the way to the present day. Now, the Chu state's Yang family had already bloomed into a super family clan. Of course, their blood relations with the emperor had grown distant, but they were still part of the royal family. Yang Dingquan, who was ranked in the tens on both the heaven and earth rolls in the Taiya Divine City, was considered a prominent figure. The Li family that Li Hong was part of was also related to the Chu royal residents, but through marriage. In some sense, Yang Dingquan was a distant cousin of Li Hong. Today, Yang Dingquan suddenly appeared and immediately ridiculed him, making Li Hong feel upset. "Cousin, what are you doing here?" Li Hong asked. I'm here to be your strategist, cousin. I know you are tight on resources recently. If you want to borrow dragon scale runes, I can lend it to you, but I have one condition." Yang Dingquan pulled his words. "What condition?" "That is, the first 3 volumes of the Taiya Sacred Technique. I want you to win it for me." When Yang Dingquan said those words, his eyes lit up. Yang Dingquan knew that there were rules in the Taiya Divine City. The top cultivation techniques, like the Taiya Sacred Technique, could be used as stakes, but this was seldom done in the past. The Taiya Sacred Technique cultivation technique Jade Scroll was very precious, and there were a limited number of copies. If a cultivator wanted to exchange dragon scale runes and glory points for the cultivation technique, they were actually renting it for 10 months. In this 10 months, the cultivator who rented the Taiya Sacred Technique was free to cultivate the Taiya Sacred Technique, but they could not lend the Taiya Sacred Technique to other cultivators, unless it was lost in a gambling match. To prevent people from deliberately handing over the Taiya Sacred Technique by gambling, the Taiya Sacred Technique had strict rules. Once the Taiya Sacred Technique was used as a bet, not losing it was alright, but once it was lost in a bet, the remaining rental period was reduced by 30%. This is why very few people would use the Taiya Sacred Technique as a stake. Once 30% of the time was lost, many cultivators could not afford it. It might not be possible for them to learn it in 10 months, what's more, having 30% deducted. The Taiya Sacred Technique. You are eyeing Yun's Taiya Sacred Technique. Realizing Yang Dingquan's outrageous greed, Li Hong jumped. He quickly calculated what his losses would be if he were to agree to Yang Dingquan's condition. There was no doubt that if Yang Dingquan wanted the Taiya Sacred Technique, then he had to put up something that was equivalent to the Taiya Sacred Technique as a stake. If that happened, this would be a great gamble. Yang Dingquan was crazy enough. But Li Hong was also confident that he could beat Yi Yun. Have you not had the chance to cultivate the Taiya Sacred Technique? Li Hong asked. Although Yang Dingquan was from the Chu royal residence, he was not privileged enough to cultivate the Taiya Sacred Technique. There were too many children in the Chu royal residence. Even if Yang Dingquan was the heir apparent to the Chu royal residence, he would still not have that privilege. The Taiya Sacred Technique Jade Scrolls were too precious. The Divine Kingdom's royal household only had 3 or 4 copies, and the rest were stored in the Taiya Divine City. Those who had the ability could compete for a chance to cultivate it, but those who lacked the ability could only stand by the side. Yang Dingquan angrily said, "TSK. The Divine City's rules are too rigid. Although I have earned enough glory points and dragon scale runes to exchange for the Taiya Sacred Technique, the price is too high. Once I exchange it, I would be absolutely impoverished." But this kid Yi Yun had great luck in picking herbs. He obtained a large sum of dragon scale runes and glory points because of it. He exchanged for the Taiya Sacred Technique just like that. It's completely unfair. Who gave him the right to do so? He wants to cultivate the Taiya Sacred Technique? He is a bumpkin from the Cloud Wilderness. Humph. As a descendant of the royal household, I still haven't even managed to cultivate this royal secret technique. How is this fair? Once this Taiya Sacred Technique is in my hands, I will make its glory bloom. Chapter 248, Truth of the Laws. You want Yun to bet his copy of the Taya sacred technique? Yang Dingkuan, you sure have a big appetite. Hearing Yang Dingkuan's plans, Hu Tu also felt tempted. He too had no chance to cultivate the Taya sacred technique. The Taya sacred technique was too difficult to cultivate. Only 1 in 5 people cultivating the Taya sacred technique could master it. And people like Hu Tu might have the wealth to exchange for the Taya sacred technique, but even after exchanging the precious resources for it, the chances of them failing to learn it was high. To pay so many glory points in dragon scale runes for such an improbable possibility, Hu Tu could not make the resolute decision as the cost was too high. Of course, treasures belong to those who are capable of keeping them. The Taya sacred technique in Yun's hands is a deliberate waste of a heavenly treasure. I have the royal bloodline, and since the Taya sacred technique was originally the cultivation technique of my royal household, it will be easy for me to cultivate it. Although it has to be returned within 6 months after you win me the Taya sacred technique, it will be enough. I am confident that I can master the Taya sacred technique in less than 6 months. Yang Dingkuan had considerable confidence in himself. Hu Tu's mouth twitched when he heard this. This rascal sure could brag. He wants to master it in less than 6 months? Was he not afraid that the bragging words he said might choke him? No one has mastered the Taya sacred technique within 6 months in the past decade. But even if Yang Dingkuan could not master the Taya sacred technique in 6 months, it would allow Yang Dingkuan to determine whether he was suitable to learn the Taya sacred technique or not. If he was not suitable, he could give up on it. As such, it wouldn't waste his glory points. So no matter what happened, Yang Dingkuan would still benefit from it. You want to get the Taya sacred technique from Yun, then what do you plan on using as a stake? Li Hong asked. Yang Dingkuan gave a confident smile and said, naturally, I have something that will entice the kid. Besides that, I can lend you 30,000 dragon scale runes as an additional bet against Yun. This is just a loan, you need to repay it in the future. 30,000 dragon scale runes were for Li Hong to recoup his losses. If he could win this amount, Li Hong would be able to catch a breather. Li Hong contemplated it before slowly nodding his head. Yun would not feel the pinch if he were to lose 30,000 dragon scale runes, but if he were to lose the Taya sacred technique, Yun would definitely feel the pinch to the point of dying. Li Hong wanted to let Yun know the feeling of suffering such a great loss. He stretched out 5 fingers and said, 50,000. Lend me 50,000 dragon scale runes. Since the Taya sacred technique was already bet, Li Hong did not dare to use glory points as a stake. It would be too ridiculous. Li Hong's limit was 50,000 dragon scale runes. Yun might still have hidden strength, hoping to cheat him. But how could Li Hong not have any hidden strength? It was time to use all the trump cards. Yun must think that I have fallen for his trap, but no one knows that I had a great breakthrough in the past month. Neither one of us knows the other's hidden card. What makes you think I will lose to you? With this thought in mind, Li Hong became more resolute. After Yun defeated Chu Xiaoran, obtaining first place amongst the rookies, Yun's fame in the Taya Divine City was said to be unrivaled. Many large family clans' lobbyists began arriving, hoping to rope in Yun as a guest in their faction. Many of these factions had given various favorable terms for Yun. Some even did not need Yun to sign a contract. All they wanted was a verbal commitment from Yun. But Yun rejected all of them. Back when Yun was in the Cloud Wilderness, he wanted to join a faction in order to obtain resources. But now, in the Taya Divine City, Yun could earn them using his own efforts. His strength was skyrocketing every day, so there was no reason to join a faction and allow himself to be controlled by others. As Yun was having his dinner, before he went to the Saber Tomb again, he noticed a few pretty and slim girls walk past. They were talking and joking as they held their meal trays. In the middle of these girls was Zhao Qingcheng. Zhao Qingcheng noticed Yun and she gave him a surprised smile. Little brother Yun, you are here too. Oh, just as Zhao Qingcheng uttered the last word, she suddenly realized something and stopped herself before saying, "I can't call you that anymore. You are already the #1 rookie." Thinking of her first meeting with Iyun 3 months back, Zhao Qingcheng had mixed emotions. Who would have expected that the naive-looking little brother could develop into such an outstanding figure? The girls' eyes lit up when they heard that Zhao Qingcheng knew Iyun. Soon, they surrounded Iyun, trying to get Zhao Qingcheng to introduce Iyun to them. These girls did not wait for Iyun's reply, and they simply sat beside Iyun or opposite him with their trays. Immediately, the table was full with an aromatic crowd of young girls. The girls simply ignored eating and only spoke to Iyun. They asked Iyun various questions in an excited manner. This feeling was the same feeling that the girls who chased idols around back in Iyun's previous life gave off. In the vast wilderness, warriors carried more weight than idols. But only the peerless geniuses were the real idols of teenagers. They had countless numbers of admirers and suitors. "Young Master Yi, are you engaged? Do you have someone you like?" A bold girl went straight to the point, which dumbfounded Iyun. She was too direct. In this world, mortals began considering marriage at 15 years of age. But amongst warriors, there were some who did not get married till they were hundreds of years old due to their sole pursuit for martial arts. But there were others who would decide on a partner when they were in their teens. Martial arts partners could complement each other in their yin and yang through intercourse. If the two were soulmates, their progress was faster compared to a person who cultivated alone in their pursuit of martial arts. Upon hearing this question, a vague image appeared in Iyun's mind. Iyun was reminded of Zhang Xiaro. Iyun could not explain it himself. He could not define the feelings he had for Zhang Xiaro, but there was no doubt that Zhang Xiaro was the most important person in his life. They shared weal and woe, which was an eternal promise. And after Zhang Xiaro, Iyun thought of another white-dressed figure that rode the wind, Lin Xintong. In Iyun's mind, Lin Xintong was the girl, other than Zhang Xiaro, that left the deepest impression. Iyun still remembered the scene of the night in the desolate human valley when Lin Xintong mentioned her naturally terminated meridians under the moonlight. At that moment, Iyun could see the sadness on Lin Xintong's face. When he heard Lin Xintong's gentle sigh, he had felt an inexplicable sadness come over him. Lin Xintong said there was an important family matter she had to attend to. "I have no idea what it is or if it was smoothly handled. Her family clan is probably not in the Taiya Divine Kingdom." Thinking of this, Iyun's mind wandered. He did not pay much attention to the girls who continued asking him questions. At this moment, a very harsh and aggressive voice rang, pulling Iyun back to reality. F***K, this kid Iyun is going to fight our boss tomorrow, and he is still in the mood to flirt with girls. When this voice called out, a few girls immediately stared angrily at the person who said it. There were 4 youths, who clearly looked like henchmen, that were standing before Iyun's dining table. They were clearly jealous when they saw Iyun surrounded by beauties. These people had made servants, who served them back in their family clans, that they could easily fool around with, but those maid servants could not be compared to the girls who entered the Taiya Divine City. "Iyun, prepare to die tomorrow. Our president has accepted your challenge. But there must be some bonuses in the match. Our president has told us to tell you that you have to bet your Taiya sacred technique in tomorrow's battle. And another 50,000 dragon scale runes on top of that." Although they were afraid of Iyun, these henchmen did not appear weak because of their connections with the Hongdao Association. They shouted loudly, causing the entire cookhouse to hear it. "Betting the Taiya sacred technique. And another 50,000 dragon scale runes." This bet was too ridiculous. Especially the Taiya sacred technique. Many people knew that Iyun had obtained the first 3 volumes of the Taiya sacred technique due to a stroke of luck in picking the primordial herb. Now, before it could even become warm in the hands of Iyun, Li Hong was targeting it. How could one agree to such a bet? People stopped eating and stared at Iyun. "Are you afraid? If you are afraid, quickly beg for mercy. Our president can't even be bothered with your trashy strength. The few guys began to taunt Yi Yun in fear of his reluctance. Yi Yun could not be bothered with such an immature taunt. The Taya sacred technique, Yi Yun stroked his chin. He did not expect Li Hong to make the stakes so high. Although Yi Yun was confident that he could beat Li Hong, there was no guarantee in a match between experts. Although Yi Yun had his own trump card, he did not know how great Li Hong's strength was. This was originally a challenge for Yi Yun. Only a challenge had the motivating factor. The path of martial arts was a winding road fraught with difficulties. Li Hong wants me to bet the Taya sacred technique, then what is his bet? It can't be dragon scale runes. Humph. Of course not. The person who wants to bet for your Taya sacred technique is actually the young prince of the Chu royal residence, Yang Dingkuan. The stake he will be placing is the Chu royal residence's secret mystic technique, Truth of the Laws. Oh? Truth of the Laws? Yi Yun thought about it. At this moment, Zhao Qingcheng, who was beside Yi Yun, covered her mouth without thought. The Truth of the Laws was a valuable compendium. It was not a cultivation technique, but it explained the nomological truths generally. For example, warriors like Chu Xiaoran, who had extraordinary perceptivity, managed to gain insights on two laws, hard soft and frost ice, in the purple blood realm. Although gaining insight on the laws mainly relied on oneself, it was not something that one had to arduously figure out by oneself. To gain insight on laws, there was a slow initial process. And this compendium that described the laws was extremely important. The Chu royal residence's Truth of the Laws was one of the top nomological compendiums in the Taya divine kingdom. And this compendium was obtained by the 10th King Chu in a huge fortuitous opportunity. It was a manual that the Taya divine city did not have. This reflected the true value of the Truth of the Laws. Yi Yun was indeed tempted by this. He still had a lot of shortcomings in the understanding of the laws. Chapter 249, Saber and Sword. The Chu royal residence's young prince, Yang Dingkuan. This Chu royal residence should be the faction that was first in trying to draw me in. Yi Yun recalled Su Qingyun of the Linshao Association. He first met Su Qingyun when a lobbyist of the Chu royal residence tried to draw him into their faction by promising him many benefits. But amongst the conditions given to him by the Chu royal residence, there was a hidden soul contract. Once it was signed, he would have to serve the Chu royal residences for many years. It was then Su Qingyun who stopped the lobbyist. Although Yi Yun would most likely not have signed that unfair contract, even without Su Qingyun's interference, it was still something that was nauseating. Yi Yun did not have a good impression of the Chu royal residence. Yang Dingkuan, who tried to take advantage of the situation to profit by cheating him, was someone that Yi Yun would not mind swindling. The Truth of the Laws then, all right, I'll agree to it. Yi Yun said in a slow manner. He had initially set up a trap for Li Hong to jump into, hoping to get more of Li Hong's dragon scale runes. He did not expect that there would be another person who would walk up to the trap voluntarily and insist on jumping into it. Hence, the stakes became bigger this time to the point that it exceeded Yi Yun's estimations. Young Master Yi, they are ganging up to cheat you out of the Taya sacred technique. Seeing Yi Yun agree, Zhao Qingcheng became worried. The girls that surrounded him were also worried for Yi Yun. Yi Yun may be strong, but Li Hong was a prominent figure amongst the second-year cultivators of the Taya divine city. Li Hong was ruthless and he had a dark personality. His strength was also horrifying. It would be hard for Yi Yun to beat him. Ha ha. That's what you said. We have already recorded it with a video disc array. We will now go to the arena administration to file it. Don't regret it now. The henchmen were overjoyed. Once it was filed, there would be no two ways about it. But Yi Yun could not be bothered with them. He picked up a piece of meat and carried on eating. Kid, I'll let you be arrogant for a little while longer. Tomorrow, you'll be crying. Let's go. After a henchman said those tough words, he turned and left. Seeing Yi Yun ignore them and carry on eating his desolate beast meat as before, Zhao Qingcheng and company were rendered speechless. In less than 2 hours, the news that Yi Yun was betting the Taiya sacred technique for the truth of the laws with Li Hong had spread throughout the Taiya divine city. Even the veteran cultivators, who had spent 4 years in the Taiya divine city, paid close attention to this matter. The main reason was because the stakes involved the Taiya sacred technique. He even dares to bet the Taiya sacred technique. Many veteran cultivators turned green with envy when they heard this. They had been in the Taiya divine city for a few years, yet they had never had the chance to even touch the jade scrolls of the Taiya sacred technique, let alone learn it. This Yi Yun is mad enough. He has not even had the Taiya sacred technique for 2 months, and already he does not want it anymore? He sure is a loser. That might not be it. Maybe Yi Yun has already attempted to learn the Taiya sacred technique after he exchanged for it, but he was unable to master it. Since it is useless in his hands, he might as well use it as a bet. Some people analyzed it this way. Yi Yun gave a strange overall impression. His saber was overpowering, but his insight into the laws was weak. His talent was also said to only be average. It would not be easy for Yi Yun to learn the Taiya sacred technique under such circumstances. For example, Chonyo was considered to be similar to Yi Yun. Yi Yun's saber technique was powerful, while Chonyo's strength was powerful. Chonyo's strength left many rookies in the dust, but not many people believed that Chonyo would be able to master the Taiya sacred technique. Learning something did not depend on a person's fighting prowess, it depended on one's perceptivity and talent. As for people like Chu Xiaoran, many of them believed that she was the one most likely to master the Taiya sacred technique. He got it from the glory points he earned from picking herbs, so maybe he doesn't know how to appreciate it? In the future, he will find out how hard is it to earn glory points. Some people said angrily. They all wished the glory points that were used to exchange for the Taiya sacred technique were theirs. Naturally, Yi Yun was not bothered by the reactions the veteran cultivators had. He already went looking for Song Yan, because he was planning on entering the saber tomb. He wanted to spend the night honing his saber technique. Li Hong was a strong opponent and Yi Yun did not know Li Hong's full strength. Although he was confident about tomorrow's battle, he could not guarantee his victory. He had to go all out. Yi Yun would not waste the time he had at night. This was a big bet. If he won it, he would obtain the truth of the laws. This was something Yi Yun was in absolute desperate need of to help him understand the laws. When Song Yan opened the door to the saber tomb for Yi Yun suddenly had a thought and looked thoughtfully at the other chamber. That was the sword tomb. If he entered the sword tomb, what would happen? Yi Yun knew he was not a natural saber user. When he chose the saber in the Jin Longwei Divine Capital Armory, he did not have the feeling of that legendary physical affinity. The reason why he could gain insight on the saber truth's 32 words had nothing to do with his accomplishments in the way of the saber, it was completely due to his energy vision. He could see the energy flows inside the saber truth's 32 words at a glance. These energy flows were in fact equivalent to the laws of the saber truths. If he entered the sword tomb, would he gain an additional bonus? The laws in the saber and sword tombs were incomprehensible profound truths for many sages. Even with the profound truths laid out there, very few of those who entered the tombs gained anything from them, because they could not comprehend anything. Since he had the facilities to do so, why would he not try to gain further insights to broaden his horizons? Kid, what are you standing around for? Why aren't you entering? Song Yan's voice suddenly interrupted Yi Yun's thoughts. Noticing Yi Yun's gaze, Song Yan knit his eyebrows. Kid, you cannot be interested in the sword tomb. Yi Yun hesitated because he did not know what to say. He knew that the truths in the sword and saber tombs were something sages of various generations had trouble understanding a tinge of it, let alone learning both at the same time. Song Yan gave Yi Yun an odd glance. Rotten rascal, I'm warning you. Don't go crazy on me. It was rare for me to see you have such talent on the way of the saber, don't waste it. By being able to gain insight into the saber truths, 32-word saber truth, it proves you have an extraordinary keen sense in the saber truths. But the more keen you are on the saber truths, the lesser your senses will be for the sword truths. Song Yan exhorted Yi Yun. If an average person had talent in one type of weapon and they managed to go far using it, it would be impressive. Song Yan had never heard of a person reaching the far extremes in the use of two different weapons. Can't the way of the saber and sword be taken to the extreme together? Then the sword and saber tomb. Yi Yun suddenly realized that there was a possibility the sword and saber tombs were the works of a single person. If that was true, to what extent did that person reach in his martial arts attainment? Of course, Yi Yun did not say his thoughts, or Song Yan might have an outburst. He obediently entered the saber tomb, but the thought of entering the sword tomb when he had the chance rooted itself deeply in Yi Yun's mind. At the same time as Yi Yun entered the saber tomb, Li Hong was meditating in an expensive cultivation room. Swirls of yuan qi condensed into a visible flow before they entered Li Hong's body. With the inflow of yuan qi, Li Hong's muscles began to swell up like waves. Li Hong clenched his fists. He wanted to use the cultivation from that night to push his condition to its highest point. At the same time, he also tried to consolidate his soon-to-be Yuan Foundation cultivation level. Li Hong had several speculations about Yi Yun's hidden strength. There was no way Yi Yun could hide his cultivation level. He was definitely at the peak of the middle stages of purple blood. A person who had their heaven's eye opened had looked into it for him. It was also impossible for Yi Yun to have an aspect totem as he never went into the wilderness to hunt desolate beasts. Yi Yun might have hidden his cultivation techniques for laws, but with the insight of a purple blood realm warrior, it was definitely not going to be a heaven-defying thing. Li Hong had even envisioned that even if Chu Xiaoran's understanding of the laws had been implanted in Yi Yun's body, Yi Yun was still not his match. Taking a step back, he considered the possibility of Yi Yun having secretly learned a powerful cultivation technique. But even if Yi Yun were to learn something like the star-picking hand or secret techniques that belonged to a Duke-class family, Li Hong still believed that he could beat Yi Yun. Furthermore, with Yi Yun's background, where could he obtain a cultivation technique that was at the Duke-class level? No matter how much he calculated or envisioned it, this battle was a sure win. Li Hong's eyes flashed as he clenched his fingernails deep into his flesh. He had an extreme desire to win the battle tomorrow. An uneventful night passed. Both Yi Yun and Li Hong worked hard. The upcoming battle was too important to them. Next morning, when the sun rose, the cultivators in the Tai A Divine City woke up and began to arrive in the arena in streams. The number of spectators who came today was even higher than the day Yi Yun fought Chu Xiaoran. People were looking forward to know the results of Yi Yun and Li Hong's huge bet. Chapter 250, Battling Li Hong. The arena was buzzing with activity. There were only a few matches happening in the arena today. Everyone who went on stage was strong. Besides Yi Yun and Li Hong's battle, there was also a battle between Chu Xiaoran and a veteran cultivator ranked within the top 2,000. Oh? Yi Yun and Li Hong have not arrived yet? When the spectators arrived, they looked for traces of Yi Yun and Li Hong, but no matter how much they searched, they could not see them. Their battle is going to start just before noon, so there is no need for it to be the opening match. I guess they are still cultivating or meditating right now. The spectators were secretly alarmed when they heard this. Every minute counted. Even Li Hong, who was ranked in the top 1,000, took this battle with a rookie so seriously. When the matches began, it started with a few rookies ranked around 50-100 to 60-100 challenging each other. Even Gu Mu, who was ranked 4th amongst the rookies, went on stage. However, there was a lack of interest in all these battles. It was only when Chu Xiaoran went on stage that the audience roused themselves up. Chu Xiaoran's opponent was a veteran cultivator who had spent 4 years in the Tai A Divine City. Chu Xiaoran did not hold anything back. She immediately summoned her aspect totem at the beginning of the battle and she used her frost ice concepts. The battle was very intense, there were ice particles flying everywhere. Finally, Chu Xiaoran managed to use the move Azure Blue Frostsea, Ephemeral Beauty, to defeat her opponent. But after Chu Xiaoran defeated her opponent, she was extremely drained of her strength. It could be said that it was a tough victory. Chu Xiaoran entered the top 2,000 of the Earth Roll. People could see that it would be tough for Chu Xiaoran to win her next match. She still had another match she could fight, but she would at best reach the 1900 mark. It was impossible for her to go any further. Chu Xiaoran, who was considered to be similar to Yi Yun, had found her bottleneck at 1900, but Yi Yun had challenged Li Hong, who was ranked around 1000. He was mad enough. Oh! Yi Yun! Yi Yun is here! Someone in the crowd shouted. People glanced over and they saw a teenager dressed in linen clothes entering the arena. He strolled directly to his seat and sat down. Then, he closed his eyes and started to regulate his breathing. Many people were impressed that Yi Yun was still as calm and at complete leisure even when he had a big battle with a large stake coming up. Yi Yun! Seeing Yi Yun's calm appearance, Chu Xiaoran's brows moved slightly. Could it be that he was still holding back during his battle against me? Chu Xiaoran also paid a lot of attention on this match. She wanted to see what sort of strength Yi Yun, the number 1 rookie, had. Time began to pass and Li Hong still did not appear. Only at noon, as the time for the match to begin approached, did Li Hong finally appear at the entrance of the arena with a long staff behind his back. He strode into the arena with precise strides. His aura grew larger as he walked towards the stage. After seeing Li Hong, many felt that Li Hong was different in some way. Although many in the audience had not opened their heaven's eye, they could feel Li Hong's aura. He was like a towering mountain. Not only was it pressuring, it was also oppressive. Li Hong walked straight up onto the Divine Wilderness stage without a word. He did not even wait for the referee to call out his name. Yi Yun! Get up here! Li Hong shouted loudly. His voice echoed like thunder throughout the entire arena. The cultivators in the arena held their breaths. His aura was too strong. Just to face someone like this needed a lot of courage. People could guess that because Li Hong appeared so late, he must have had some kind of breakthrough. Many people started to worry for Yi Yun. Li Hong was originally very strong, but if he had taken Yi Yun lightly, Yi Yun might still have a small chance for victory. But Li Hong had been cultivating through the night and he was apparently going to go all out. If he really had another breakthrough, then everything would be different. This battle involved extremely high stakes. If they were in Yi Yun's position, they would be absolutely nervous. Everyone's gaze landed on Yi Yun. At this moment, there was no need for the referee to announce it. Yi Yun and Li Hong's match was about to begin. Yi Yun walked up onto the Divine Wilderness stage. He unsheathed his 1,000 army saber and then, he pointed the saber tip at the ground. There were 30 meters between the two of them. Li Hong pulled out his long staff and held it parallel to the ground. The staff was 6 feet long and there were golden loops on the ends of the staff that were made of metal forged from Tai Tsung essence. And on the golden loops, there were half-inch long spikes. Do not assume that a metal staff's attack power was weaker than any other weapon. It depended on who was using the metal staff. In Li Hong's hands, he could cause serious injuries with a casual swing of the staff. If he were to forcefully smash it down, he could cause all the bones in a person to fracture. Yi Yun, I know you are very strong, and you even have hidden strength. But today, no matter what hidden cards you have, it will be useless against me. As Li Hong said this, his fighting spirit flared up. A golden sheen covered Li Hong's body. I have experienced endless slaughters in the Divine Wilderness desolate lands for an entire year. I have killed countless numbers of desolate beasts. A herb-picking kid like you has only picked a few herbs and you have never gone through big battles. You still think you can be my match? Today, I will let you know why I am ranked around the top 1000 of the Earth roll. With a shout, the golden sheen around Li Hong's body formed patches of small scales, which covered his entire body. Heaven opening technique, someone in the audience cried out. In the Taiya Divine City, besides the Taiya Sacred Technique, which was no doubt the best cultivation technique, there were other top-grade cultivation techniques. Even though they were not quite as good as the Taiya Sacred Technique, they were still very powerful. This heaven opening technique was one of the top 3 cultivation techniques in the Taiya Divine City. By cultivating the heaven opening technique, one would gain the heaven opening real qi. Many geniuses could not afford the Taiya Sacred Technique, and they tried to cultivate the heaven opening technique instead, but they could not condense the heaven opening real qi. This cultivation technique was also very difficult to cultivate. By using the heaven opening real qi to protect his body, Li Hong's heaven opening technique has already reached the second stage. The small scales on Li Hong's body surface were formed from the heaven opening real qi. This was similar to Qianzhou's armor defense, but it had no weight and it allowed Li Hong to move freely. With the long staff in hand, Li Hong suddenly constricted his pupils and burst forward. Phew! Li Hong moved like a gust of wind and appeared in front of Yun nearly instantly. He swung the staff downwards heavily. Due to his extreme speed, Li Hong's staff had turned into a line. It was as if it was a whip that swung at Yun. Minute subtlety. Yun retreated backwards, and with a blur of his figure, a dozen afterimages appeared. Li Hong smashed his staff towards Yun's chest. Dang! One of Yun's afterimages was torn apart and the staff landed heavily on the stage. The purple tungsten tiles sunk in deeply from Li Hong's attack. At this moment, Yun appeared behind Li Hong and sent the 1,000 army saber slashing down. With a change of expression, Li Hong did not dodge. The yellow scales on his back suddenly expanded and they formed a giant shield. Cha! Yun's saber collided with Li Hong's shield. The blade quickly found itself unable to move an inch further when it struck the shield. Oh! This is... Yun was alarmed. There was nothing behind Li Hong, but in 1/100th of a blink of an eye, a huge shield had condensed out of thin air, blocking his attack. Not only that, the shield was extremely dense and it had a strong squeezing force. It had even trapped the 1,000 army saber. It made Yun feel like he could not pull it out. It was similar to the feeling back when Qianzhou grabbed his saber. Die! Li Hong suddenly turned around and smashed his staff towards Yun's waist. At this moment, the 1,000 army saber was still lodged in the shield. This staff attack was so powerful that a typical purple blood warrior would have been split in two. Saber Truth, pressing forward with indomitable will. Yun's eyes flashed as he injected Yuan Qi into the 1,000 army saber. With a whistling sound, the 1,000 army saber dislodged itself from the shield as Yun retreated hastily. At the same time, he bent his body backwards and formed a bridge with his arced body. Li Hong's staff swung past Yun's nose tip. Yun could still feel the pain of the staff breaking through his protective Yuan Qi. So, with a leap, Yun's body flew upwards and retreated 30 meters, pulling away from Li Hong. Li Hong's back shield also slowly closed in on itself, turning into a small scale once again, covering Li Hong's body. Li Hong grinned at Yun. You dodged pretty quickly. This cultivation technique, Yun was very startled. There was actually Yuan Qi that could be used so freely. It could form a shield above any part of one's body to block an enemy's attack. This is the heaven opening real qi? Of course, as a cultivation technique that ranked among the top in the Taiya Divine City, it would not be weak. The heaven opening technique also had other miraculous uses. The top cultivation techniques in the Taiya Divine City were much stronger than family secret techniques like the star-picking hand. Yun, the attack just now could not even break through 1/5 of my defense. Your saber may have pierced Qianzhou's armor, but my defense is on a completely different level from Qianzhou's. If you think you can break my defenses, That would be absurd thinking. I know you have even more powerful saber moves. Use it, or you will not have the chance. Li Hong had an oppressive momentum. The earth-yellow real qi on his body became more turbulent. This defense sure is ridiculous. In the audience stands, the rookies held their breaths. Xionyou's battle strategy was already very impressive to them. But compared to Li Hong, he was still far from him. Xionyou relied on his armor for defense, while Li Hong relied on a top cultivation technique. This defense method revealed the disparity in the levels. Not only that, Li Hong was just shy of breaking through to the Yuan Foundation realm. His Yuan Qi quantity was something Xionyou could not compete with. Without any question, Xionyou would lose to Li Hong in an instant.